Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. We have special guests with us today. It's Judah Friedlander. Hey, Judah, how are you?
Incredible. Thank you.
Now, everybody knows you from your latest special, America is the Greatest Country in the United States. It's on Netflix right now.
Apparently, that's what I've heard. That's where it's at.
That's where it. No, that's where it is.
I mean, I made it on my own, and they're showing it. So.
And you're going to be at the end of the month. You're going to be at North Adams, Massachusetts, at the High Mud Comedy Festival. That's March 29th. Good for you, huh?
Thanks. It should be a cool thing. I'm doing all new material. It's none of the material that's on my stand-up special.
No.
Yeah, my new tour I'm calling the Future President Tour, because I might have to be president someday.
Apparently,
do it.
we all have a shot.
I think we do as Americans. I think it's our right to be a candidate.
So,
it's the American way.
Well, I'm glad that you're here today. Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
with us. And I know you get recognized a lot from your appearances on the show and what have you.
I do. It's always fun when I meet someone after the show and they have come because they saw me on your show. So it's cool.
You get vegan cookies, what have you.
I haven't gotten that yet. That would be great, though.
That didn't happen? I thought you went into a vegan cookie store and they recognized you.
Maybe it did.
That's what you texted me. You go, hey, I just walked out of a vegan cookie store.
You're right. I remember now.
Yeah.
It was a vegan. When you said you confused me with the vegan cookie store. Yeah, it was a vegan place and they had cookies there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I just wanted to show you, first of all, so this happened, and I'm going to brag a little. So we passed the 500,000 subscribers mark. We started this show in December of 2017. No. That would be nice.
Wow.
In December of 2015.
Right.
We started doing this version of the Jimmy Dore Show. And so look at that. Just in 3 years, we went from 0 to 500,000 subscribers. And you go, why does that happen, Jimmy? How did that happen? What are you doing? Because that's what my comedy friends ask. They go, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, I'm just reporting the news that the news doesn't report. And it's real easy. And actually, it's not hard. It's actually, I'm not... as I've said it a million times on this show, I am a C student, dumb nightclub jagoff comedian. Spent my life in nightclubs for 20 years, and I couldn't get over how bad the news was. And here it is. It was the Bernie Sanders campaign that really woke a lot of people up to how bad the news is. And Tulsi Gabbard is proving it once again. I mean, they do it all the time. They're always pro-war. They were wrong about Iraq. They're wrong about Libya. They're wrong about Syria. And now they're all wrong about Venezuela. Isn't it amazing? So she went on CNN. She had a CNN town hall, and this was last Sunday. And Dana Bash is going to try to bash her, right? So now the important thing is, we don't have state media in the United States, right? Like when I grew up, everybody thought Russia has state media, North Korea has state media, China has. You can't get the truth, right? Because it's a totalitarian government and blah, blah, blah. We don't have that in America. Well, I'm going to show you that it doesn't matter, as Chomsky said, that any dictator would be thrilled with the obsequiousness of the American press to power, right? I'm paraphrasing it, but that's basically what he said. So, and here we're going to show proof. Here it is. Here's Tulsi Gabbard. And
Congresswoman, you mentioned Syria. We actually have a question on that. I want to bring in Jessica James, a consultant from New Jersey.
Hi, thank you. Do you remember?
Now, by the way, when Bernie Sanders did his town hall, the CNN filled the town hall with plants, like political operatives from the Hillary Clinton campaign or from somebody else's campaign, or that were there to like ask questions that were trying to sandbag him. And then it got revealed that these people were all political operatives afterwards. That in the CNN town hall, and it's just like it doesn't matter how much CNN all the fuckery that CNN does. Last time they cheated for Hillary Clinton against Bernie Sanders, they gave questions to her in advance and stuff like that. Nope, nobody got fired at CNN as far as I know. Nobody had to come out and apologize. Nobody apologized when they did it to Bernie, and they're doing it again. So again, you want to know how I get to 500,000 subscribers? I just don't suck as bad as them. All I have to do is not suck. All I have to do is not lie to you. All I have to do is not smear a progressive. That's all I have to do, and I'm better than CNN. And then I also have to tell you the truth about Venezuela, Syria, Libya, and Iraq. That's all I have to do too, and I do that. So that's how. So here comes the question.
skeptical as you were in 2017 that Bashar al-Assad used chemical warfare against Syrian civilians?
Now, this woman actually is an activist. She's actually worked for some organizations that have to do with promoting women, right? Weren't you telling me this stuff? Did you look her up? So, and it's interesting that she doesn't ask a question like that's in her expertise, in her wheelhouse, right? She works on women's issues and what have you. And this is a weird question for her to ask. It's almost like it's staged. Here we go.
I want to correct that because there's been some misunderstanding. There have been reports showing that chemical weapons have been used in Syria, both by the Syrian government as well as different terrorist groups on the ground in Syria. The skepticism and the questions that I raised were very specific around incidents that the Trump administration was trying to use as an excuse to launch a U.S. military attack in Syria. Now, I served in a war in Iraq, a war that was launched based on lies, and a war that was launched without evidence. And
So now when you hear the people applaud, that's the sentiment in America. That's what normal people feel about these foreign wars. That's why a lot of people say they voted for Trump because he promised to end the foreign wars. Of course, he's not. Of course, he just didn't want the wars that Barack Obama did. He wants his own wars. So Barack Obama did Syria and Libya, and George Bush did Iraq and Afghanistan. Trump doesn't want any of those. He wants his own. He wants Iran and Venezuela. So, all right, here we go. So that's how the people feel in the country, right? Judah, do you find that when you travel around, people feel like that, like we're sick and tired of these wars, and even as much as the politicians want them and the press pushes it, they still don't want them?
You know, I wish I could agree with you, but I'm also not disagreeing with you.
Mm-hmm.
When I watched that clip just now, I hadn't seen this clip before. You notice how they applauded? They applauded, but they were a little hesitant. It's almost like they were afraid to say, "Oh yeah, I don't want wars."
Yes, exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like they don't want them, but they're almost afraid to express their opinion that they don't want them.
Right, because there's a news person pushing, and everybody else in the world is pushing war.
It's almost like if you're saying you're not for these wars, you're saying you're anti-America or something like that. So it's like it's really bizarre because I think one thing that's like missing in this country is a strong anti-war movement. It doesn't seem like there is one, even though I think many people don't want it. So it's
well,
weird.
they've been able to suppress it, right?
Yeah.
So there is Code Pink, and I think most
but
people.
Code Pink should be so popular.
You're right,
and it's not as
well. They
popular
only
as
get
it should
brought.
be.
Like I had Medea Benjamin on this show to highlight her work, and we highlight her work a lot. But when they bring her on CNN or MSNBC, it's to shit on her.
Right.
So they don't highlight her.
Right.
work.
No. Right. Yeah. So the media is. And both main parties, seem to always really, it's like new president, new season. You know, new teams. Who are they fighting against? It seems crazy.
So let's hear her answer. Let's hear the rest of this.
American people were duped. So as a soldier, as an American, as a member of Congress, it is my duty and my responsibility to exercise skepticism anytime anyone tries to send our service members into harm's way or use our military to go in and start a new war.
May I just ask a follow about that? Because Congress.
So the audience can applaud. They're applauding now after she's done answering. They start applauding, and Dana Bash steps on the applause to immediately come in and watch what she can't wait to ask. Watch this.
When the Defense Department, the United Nations agree that the Assad regime used chemical weapons against its own people. So, as president, would you trust the conclusions of your government?
Well, like I said.
So Dana Bash is exactly going, she doesn't say, hey, I know that our intelligence communities lie all the time. And of course, they lied us into the Iraq war famously. And then they went and committed torture to cover it up. But don't you still trust them? Like, that's the question. That's how you should ask that question. But that's not how Dana Bash asked it, is it? Isn't that kind of how you would expect a reporter who works for the government to that's what somebody from the State Department or somebody from the Trump or the CIA, that's something that they would say. That's not what a reporter would say. So what we have here is the exact opposite of what's supposed to be happening in journalism. What's happening right now is that politician has to hold reporters, the journalists' feet to the fire on the truth about Syria and the Iraq war and believing our government. You know, our government is Donald Trump right now. Does Dana Bash say that? You don't believe our government? You mean you don't believe Trump, who you call a liar every single second of the day? Do you see how crazy this is? Is that not nuts what Dana Bash is doing? Is that not nuts what she's doing, Judah?
Well, I thought what was funny there, I just thought of this. She said that our government and the UN has decided that the leader of Syria was using chemical weapons against his own people.
Right.
So maybe she's upset that the country's going to war on itself, and then we can't go to war with them because they're doing our work for them.
Right.
You know, and then how are we going to make money? How are we going to support our own
That's
industrial complex if the other countries are already doing it?
That's such a good point. They're already killing their own people. Now we can't kill them.
Then we're out of a job.
So what
are we going to do?
So what no one ever says, that's such a, he's making it comedically, but this is a great point. So when Dana Bash is encouraging, you don't want to go bomb Syria because, so what does that mean? So he gassed his own people, which, by the way, very shady evidence for that. And it goes against logic that he did that. So just like WMDs, him gassing his own people seems like a scam.
All right. And even if he is or if he isn't, how is us bombing going to be better for the citizens in that country?
So that's my
How's
point.
that going to help?
My point is Dana Bash wants the response to him killing his own people for us to go then kill some of his own people too.
Yeah.
Because that's what bombing does. You don't go. We're not going to go in there and knock on Bashar al-Assad's door and take him away. We're going to bomb some people who live in his country. That's what they want us to do. They want us to do to his people exactly what he's doing to his people. Kill them. And that's the point that Judah just made. Comedically, and then I thought I'd make it in a less funny way.
Have in our recent past a situation where our own government told lies to the American people and to the United Nations, for that matter, to launch a war. So what I'm saying is it is our responsibility to exercise due diligence.
So do you see what just happened there? What just happened there was the politician had to school the journalist on what the actual situation is. She had to remind the journalist. The journalist is supposed to be saying, now we know the government lies all the time about. That's not what she's saying. She sounds like she works for the government, Dana Bash. That's what's remarkable. Like, we don't need a dictator with his own news media here. They do it for him, for money. And that, to me, that is the craziest backwards thing, is to watch a politician have to hold a journalist's feet to the fire to tell the truth about our government. That's what just happened. Okay.
To ask the tough questions, to get the evidence before we make those very costly decisions about how and when and where our military is used.
While we're on the topic of Syria,
people applaud again and again. She talks over the applause and watch, and she won't stop. She won't go, wow, that's a great point. Of course, I should remind our audience, we should always be skeptical of the intelligence community in our country because they've been known liars and torturers ever since they were invented. They've been toppling democratically elected governments, torturing people and murdering them to cover it up. They do more of that before breakfast than most people do all day, the CIA. So again, the roles here are reversed. Dana Bash sounds like she's from the government, and Tulsi Gabbard sounds like she is the journalist. And now you know why we have 500,000 subscribers for a Jagoff nightclub comedian is talking about the news. Now you know why. Because they suck so unbelievably bad. And you're going to watch, she's going to suck again. Watch this.
this week, Syrian refugees in Jordan, they requested that the first international criminal court case against the Syrian government commence. You met Bashar al-Assad in 2017. Do you believe that Assad is a war criminal?
I think that...
What is the point of these questions? What is the point? You still don't want to bomb him? You still don't want to kill some people in another country because you know how well it works out all the time? That's what she keeps saying. So let me find another way to get you to... You still don't want... But he's a war... You know who else is a war criminal, Dana? George Bush. You know who else is a war criminal? Dick Cheney. You know who else? Condoleezza Rice, Don Rumsfeld. There's lots of war criminals right here in the good old US of A. Do you know that our drone program is the biggest terrorist program in the world? Kills mostly innocent civilians? Do you know that Barack Obama would be considered a war criminal? Do you know that every president since World War II of the United States, every president would be considered a war criminal? Did you know that? Of course she doesn't know that. That's why she has the job. But you know who does know that? Me in my fucking garage.
The evidence needs to be gathered. And as I have said before, if there is evidence that he has committed war crimes, he should be prosecuted as such.
But you're not sure now.
Everything that I have said requires that we take action based on evidence. The evidence is there. There should be accountability.
Okay, there you go. That's literally that she sounds like a politician. Can't we go to war? Can't we bomb someone? Can't we just keep doing the wrong thing over and over and over? Why? Because she is bought and funded by the people she's supposed to be investigating and exposing. Dana Bash works for CNN, which is bought and funded by the military-industrial complex and fossil fuel companies. And there you go. And that's the result, Steph.
Every time I read a headline about Tulsi Gabbard, it turns out it's all about the idea that Tulsi has this position on Assad. Oh, my God. And Tulsi met with a world leader named Assad. And it's like, I don't understand why they're the celebration of peace. Here we have a candidate who is principled, who served in the military, who understands the cost of the military, and she's pro-peace. And all they keep telling to Dana in her ear is ask about Syria. Keep asking Syria.
Somehow she's some kind of a traitor. Somehow Tulsi's some kind of a traitor or a bad person to America. She's a fucking veteran. And look how people were angry at Trump when he disrespected that Gold Star family, but apparently it's okay to disrespect a veteran if they're alive. Right, go ahead.
I was going to say, Tulsi should have asked her if she's ever served.
Yeah, have you ever served? Have you ever? No, you're
Yeah.
right. That would have been. She doesn't do that. She's much too nice. She's probably smarter than that. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Like I would go right at them. Of course, that's probably not the smart thing. Tulsi's
Right.
probably doing the smarter thing. I sit there going, Tulsi, why don't you stick the knife in them and turn it? You've got the truth on your side.
Yeah.
But she stays measured because she's showing that she's a leader and she's not going to flip out under fire.
Right.
Like a lot of people.
And you know what? I appreciate how poised she is, and I appreciate how sensible she is. And I can't believe the nut jobs that are interviewing her on late night television
This happens
and
everywhere.
on cable television.
Stephen Colbert did this. Stephen Colbert was worse than
It's an
Dana Bash.
embarrassment.
Stephen Colbert, it is so hard. There's no bigger hero that I had in comedy than Stephen Colbert. He may have done the best comedy show in the history of comedy. His Colbert Report was, no doubt, one of the top comedy shows of all time. And I don't know exactly what happened to Stephen Colbert when he went to CBS. But if it was up to me, I'd have him turn in his comedy card if we had those. It's like, you got to give me your badge. You got to give me your badge.
If we were unionized.
If we were unionized, I'm sorry, you got to give me your union card because you're pushing establishment talking points. You're supposed to be making fun of them. You're not supposed to push the establishment, you dummy. But now he is the establishment. He's, anyway, and here's what's happening to reporters. You want to see what's happening to reporters? I guess these people like Dana Bash, and they haven't read Manufacturing Consent, or they haven't ever listened to Noam Chomsky, or else they would know what's happening in the news media and why we're a popular news show. That should be a joke in itself. And here we are doing a better job. Here we are doing a better job than CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, and the Washington Post when it comes to covering the war, covering Venezuela, talking honestly about Medicare for all and progressive politics. They can't do it honestly. And here's why. Here's Chomsky's going to tell you.
I'm sure you're speaking for the majority of journalists who are trained, have it driven into their heads that this is a crusading a profession, adversarial, we stand up against power, very self-serving view.
How can you know that I'm self-censoring? How can you
I
know
don't say
that
you're
journalists
self-censoring. I'm sure you believe everything you're saying. But what I'm saying is if you believe something different, you wouldn't be sitting where you're sitting.
Bam! I'm sure you believe everything you're saying. My point is, if you believe something different, you wouldn't be sitting where you're sitting. If Dana Bash was actually skeptical of the intelligence community and skeptical of our government, she wouldn't have that job. Does now you understand how it works? There's a movie called Broadcast News, and William Hurt is one of the leads in the movie, and he becomes the star anchor. And the reason why he becomes the star anchor is because he doesn't ask questions like you should ask. He doesn't ever question the government, the intelligence community, the establishment narrative. He goes right along with it, just like Dana Bash, just like everybody at MSNBC and CNN and the Washington Post and the New York Times. That's why they have the jobs, because they don't think differently than the establishment. And they're willing to be the mouthpieces of the oligarchs. That's it. And he doesn't even realize that. I think this is the same guy who said to Chomsky, every president would be considered a war criminal. And then Chomsky proceeded to go down every president and list their war crimes. And the guy looked like a knucklehead. But anyway, in response to the Chomsky?
I think, Chomsky, he's always, so on point and, well stated. But I think one of the things why so many people don't see the bigger picture sometimes is our schools. I mean, I remember one of the reasons I always hated school was that it seems like its main goal was to make you conform.
Yeah.
It wasn't to make you think. Like,
Right.
I remember even in like an English class, you'd have to read a book, and then you wouldn't just discuss the book. Then you would read some literary criticism, and then you'd have to write a paper, and it would have to say, all right, well, what do these literary critics say about the book? And then you write a report. They never wanted to know what you thought.
Right.
And even like when you learn history, you're just learning these, with the facts that they're giving you and dates, but they don't want they don't want you personally analyzing something and coming up with your own point of view. It's like they just want to give you stuff and don't think,
Well, and those people who conform the best in school
Excel.
get jobs in
Exactly.
journalism, and then
Exactly.
they
so
get,
this conformity is just massive, and
Like
most
when-
people don't even see it.
when people say that, hey, I went to Columbia School of Journalism, I'm like, ooh, that's too bad. That's really too bad, because you probably picked up a lot of bad habits and groupthink, and you weren't taught to go against the establishment narrative, and you're probably going to repeat a lot of bullshit right now.
Yeah, because and then there's the thing that the parents will say, or the schools will say, oh, this one student, they're not fitting in. It's like, well, maybe that's good. Maybe they shouldn't be fitting
That's
in.
right.
Maybe not everyone should be thinking the exact same thing.
Well, I
and,
think,
and
you
those people get jobs hosting their own YouTube show.
There you go.
Steph?
being as we were talking, I also was thinking about what about the idea of critical thinking, and what a perfect way to make sure Americans aren't thinking critically, but make sure that the classroom is larger than 20 kids.
Yeah.
Make sure that you have to conform. Look at the way a classroom is even designed. What has changed? Rows. You have rows with students. They're supposed to be seated in rows, and they're supposed to be seated and conform. And I get you. But when I was in the classroom, I wanted them seated so I can teach them how to be critical thinkers. And as the classes got larger and larger, that became an impossibility, because all you're doing is trying to keep track of it. And those kind of papers analyzing work because somebody else analyzed it.
Yeah.
How useless is that? What's your point of view?
Right.
What were you bringing to the table?
Right.
What did you find interesting about the literature? Not what somebody thought 20 years earlier, or whomever,
Right,
with
right.
credentials.
Well, I just want to say thank you to Dana Bash and to CNN for continuing to suck, to be pro-war, and to sandbag progressive politicians, because you leave a big lane open for me, because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of other YouTubers even that want to do this. So God bless you all. Thank you for the gift. We're announcing our dates for 2019. We're going to Ventura Comedy Club, March 31st, Tempe, Arizona, Austin, Texas, Portland, Chicago, and lots more. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a list of all our dates and live shows. And please become a patron. We give you hours of bonus material. And please make sure you're subscribed. Even if you think you're subscribed, they unsubscribe people every day, and you might be one of them. Check to make sure you're subscribed, and then you have to click the bell twice so they send you a notification when we drop a video. Thanks for your support.